I assembled an all-pink team and took them into the Pokemon Showdown OU ladder. Just how well did our pink team do? Let's take a look at all of these battles. Hello fellow trainers! We got some good battles here for you today using an all-pink team. Let's get right into it. My opponent sets up the webs as I start boosting right away. He follows it up with the stun spore, but I'm able to connect with the flamethrower and knock him all the way down to the sash. Ribombee then connects with the Moonblast. Clefable eats that right up. I go for the Moonblast of my own, take out the Ribombee. Down 1-0, my opponent's next Pokemon is a Superior. Expecting the Grass move, I go into my Pecharunt, get caught in those webs. He makes a good play, goes for the Terra Stellar, and the Substitute. Behind the Beanbag, my opponent goes for the Terra Blast, starts boosting right in front of my face, but I'm about to reveal the super secret tech, the Cursed Pecharunt. I'm able to go right past the Beanbag and start doing some damage. Trying to save Pecharunt, I then switch into my Tankaton, get caught in those webs. He fires off the Leaf Storm, I tank that no problem. Unfortunately for me, I don't have too many switches, so I have to stay and tank another Leaf Storm as he keeps getting those boosts. I go for the Gigaton Hammer, break the sub. Expecting another Grass move, I go into my Enamorous, but he makes a great play. Goes for the Terra Blast, takes out Enamorous in one shot. I get one more tick of the curse and Superior just hangs on. I go right back into the Tinkaton. I get caught in those webs, but it doesn't matter. We got the Fake Out, take out Superior. My opponent's next Pokemon is a shiny Ironmoth who gets that Quark Drive boost, goes for the Fiery Dance, takes out Tinkaton. With the game now tied, I go into my Slowking who gets stuck in those webs. Not wanting to deal with that, my opponent immediately switches into the Rillaboom as I go for the Terra Grass and fire off that Psyshock, getting some good damage. Able to outspeed, he goes for that resisted Woodhammer but still gets some huge damage. Slowking's then able to connect with the Fire Blast, take out the Rillaboom. After we recover some health, my opponent then goes into the Iron Moth. Not wanting to lose Slowking just yet, I go into the Pecharunt, who after getting caught in the webs, goes down to the Fiery Dance. After my opponent ties things up, I go into my Alomomola, and I'm about to reveal the super secret tech, the Miracle Alomomola, able to one-shot the Iron Moth. Even after its grand display, the Goldfish is not quite done yet, as my opponent goes into the Great Tusk, gets a little greedy, goes for the Rapid Spin, gets that speed boost. I go for the Skull, get that huge damage and the burn. The fish is definitely doing some huge work in this battle. After all that fun, my opponent finally goes for the Headlong Rush, takes out the fish. Now back to an even battle, I go back into my Slowking, who after getting stuck in those webs tanks that Headlong Rush no problem. And then is able to retaliate with the Scald, taking out the Great Tusk. My opponent's last Pokemon is in the Roaring Mood who gets that attack boost from the Photosynthesis. Able to outspeed, goes for the knockoff, Slowking just hangs on, goes for the Scald, but unfortunately, we don't get the burn, and then Slowking goes down to another knockoff. My last Pokemon is in the Paralyzed Clefable. Thankfully, my opponent doesn't have any super effective moves, as I tank the Acrobatics, retaliate with the Moonblast, take out the Roaring Moon. Good game. Alright, let's get into the second game with the all-pink team. They lead with the Ninetales. I start with the Tinkaton. Ninetales gets that snow going, but Tinkaton doesn't mind, goes for the Gigaton Hammer, takes him out in one shot. My opponent's second Pokemon is the Water Duck. I go for the Play Rough, get some huge damage. He starts focusing that energy. Unfortunately for him, this proves to not be enough as I survive the crit Aqua Jet, connect with another Play Rough, take out the Duck. The Pink Hammer cannot be stopped. Down 2-0, my opponent then goes into the Cleaver. I'm able to outspeed, go for the Gigaton Hammer, take him out in one shot. My opponent then forfeits. Good game. Alright, let's get into the last game for today. My opponent leads with the Dragonite. I start with the Clefable. Not wanting to mess with Clefable, he immediately switches into the Ironclad and tanks that Moonblast. Unable to do anything, expecting to steam up, I go into my Tankaton. Unfortunately, I underestimate the damage as he brings me down to about half. Goes for another Tachyon Cutter, takes out my Tankaton. Down 1-0, I then go into my Slowking. Expecting the Fire move, my opponent makes a great play, goes into the Ogerpon, tanks that Fire Blast. I then try to make an aggressive play, go for the Terra Grass, but he starts boosting right in front of my face as I start doing the same. My opponent follows it up with a Terra of his own, gets that boost, goes for the Ivy Cudgel, almost takes out the Slowking. I'm then able to retaliate with the Psyshock, take out the Ogerpon. After I tie things up, my opponent switches into the Dragonite as I switch into my Clefable. Trying to get an advantage, he goes for the Dragons, but Clefable doesn't care. He switches into the Hatterene. I'm able to go for the Moonblast, get some great damage. Able to outspeed, I go for another Moonblast, take out the Hatterene. My opponent's next Pokemon is in the Iron Valiant, gets that Quark Drive boost. Able to outspeed, he goes for the knockoff. Clefable eats that up, retaliates with the Moonblast, takes him out in one shot. Iron Crown is in my opponent's next Pokemon, but I decide to switch into my Alomomola. My opponent makes a great play, goes for the Volt Switch, and uses that to pivot right into the Dragonite. Expecting a switch, my opponent goes for the Ice Spinner. Alomomola eats that up, goes for the Flip Turn, and gets a momentum of my own, and uses the pivot right into my Pecharon. Able to outspeed, I go for the Malignant Chain, get some good damage, but Dragonite's able to retaliate with the Earthquake. I go for another Malignant Chain, he just hangs on, but I get that lucky Toxic and the Confusion. He's able to go right through, goes for the Earthquake, takes out Pecharon. I then go back into my big threat, the Clefable, while Dragonite's able to snap out of that Confusion, go for the Earthquake, I tank that no problem, go for the Moonlight, almost right back to full. And after all that, Dragonite finally goes down to the Poison. My opponent's last Pokemon is a Great Tusk, who's able to outspeed, go for the Iron Head. Clefable doesn't care, retaliates with the Moonblast, takes him out. My opponent's last Pokemon is the Iron Crown, for before he goes for another Volt Switch, cleans up Clefable finally. Which allows me to go into the cleanup clue, my Slowking, who tanks that Volt Switch no problem, goes for the Fire Blast. Iron Crown just hangs on, but the damage is already done. My opponent then forfeits. Good game.